last week, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came together and released their proposal to combat some of the loan shark behavior that we're seeing. And interestingly enough, Tucker Carlson was supportive of this proposal. Take a look.
Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have a new proposal out. It's called the Loan Shark Prevention Act. Their bill would cap interest rates on credit cards at 15%. Well, for a lot of people, that would make a difference. The median interest rate on credit cards in this country right now is 21%, and some cards charge over 35%. Banks, meanwhile, can borrow money from the Federal Reserve at 3% interest. Do the math. It's a very good business. Now you know why they're always sending you those offers for new cards. They're getting rich from your debt. The bill would also apply the same 15% limit to consumer loans. It would ban, in effect, payday loans, those loans whose interest rates can exceed 500 or 600% every year. No doubt many Republicans in the Congress will oppose this bill, if only because of who sponsored it. Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez are obviously demagogues. They don't mean half of what they say. The other half, they don't really understand. They're not impressive. But on this one issue, they are absolutely, indisputably right.
They're not impressive.
Yeah. So look, there's pressure on all sides to hate one another. And so I think Tucker Carlson has an interesting strand here. And we talked about it in our debate at Politicon, and I've talked about it on air before. And then people on our side yell at me and say, he's a white supremacist, don't say anything positive about him ever. But that's not how the real world works. So people are complicated and nuanced. What Tucker has figured out is that resentment in the Republican Party that helped Trump get elected is also aimed at big business. Now, he's being smart in pressing that raw nerve. Now, that is why he is now starting to be more popular in the ratings than even the other Fox News hosts. Now, does that mean he's right about all of what he just said? Of course not. He says that they're demagogues and don't mean what they're talking about. What are you talking about? No, the reason you guys can't stand Bernie Sanders and AOC is because they do mean what they say. If you said that about establishment Democrats, if you said it about Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, you'd be 100% right. They don't mean anything they say. But the reason you guys can't stand Bernie Sanders is because he definitely means it, and so does AOC. So that point that Tucker made makes no sense. He's just trying to do red meat for his audience. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I hate him, but they're right about this. And he said they don't understand their positions. What are you talking about? They have detailed policy positions that even your viewers agree with. So they absolutely do understand it. And he fundamentally misunderstands politics if he really means what he says. Because he says, oh, the Republicans oppose this because of who proposed it. Tucker, really? Are you that ignorant about politics?
There's a little bit of truth to that, though.
No, there's no truth to that. No,
I mean, Republican voters, that's what I'm specifically talking about.
Oh, Republican voters, I'm sorry, yes. Republican voters, I would agree with you, and if that's what Tucker meant, I would agree with him. But if he means Republican politicians, no. Republican politicians oppose it because they get paid to oppose it. They're the most corrupt people in America, and Tucker, you know that. And so we're honest, we can tell you Nancy Pelosi raised a lot of money from people, from donors, and she serves those donors. But 99% of the Republican Party does that. They are far more corrupt than the Democratic Party. And even if you're not willing to acknowledge that, even though you're obviously wrong, you would have to admit that a huge percentage of them are corrupt. And the reason they protect the credit card companies and the big banks is because they get independent expenditures and campaign contributions from that.
Yes.
If you don't know that, then you don't know anything about politics.
In fact, I want to give you guys a very specific example. Mick Mulvaney. Mick Mulvaney was funded by the loan shark industry, specifically these payday lenders. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had basically, they started enforcing some regulations against that industry, and they were also taking some of these payday lenders to court, pursuing lawsuits against them. And once Mick Mulvaney was the interim head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, you know what he did? He gave a bunch of favors and handouts to the industry and loosened restrictions toward that industry. And again, it's a perfect example of how you have a politician, he's corrupted and funded by a particular industry, and then once he has the power, he's able to do everything that that industry wants him to do. And in this case, it was the payday lenders and how much they wanted to loosen some of the restrictions and regulations that they were dealing with under the CFPB.
So the credit that I'll give Tucker Carlson is he's the only one that understands the actual populist anger on the right-wing side. So the rest of the Fox News anchors are paid to further the corruption in Washington. So they will back Republican Party officials who will sell you out, who work for the big banks and big business. Tucker has at least figured out that no, the Republican voters don't like big business and they don't like the big banks, and they get that those are the guys screwing them. So he has accurately assessed that and hence is being rewarded with higher ratings. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna last, because at some point, people come and talk to you and they say, whether you're on the left or the right, hey, take it easy with that kind of talk. Do you know who our advertisers are? So I don't know if that's gonna happen to Tucker Carlson, but he better watch himself, because if he starts to make too much sense, he will be taken off of Fox News. Even if he's loathsome on everything else, if he's right about the corruption, Fox News will not stand for it. They are the heart of corruption.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.